Rugby in the company of Keith Wood and Rory O'Connor, and then the football show Pat Nevin on the curtailed Premier League weekend, and shameful scenes really after an odd week in Spanish football. Shameful scenes in the Madrid derby last night. Graham Hunter will explain all. 53106 the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Mick McCarthy here in studio. Hello.
Hey Joe, how are you?
Very
I
well.
don't usually interrupt your intro there, but you hit me with that zinger. I wasn't expecting it, you know.
Ad-libbed it as well.
Yeah.
Listen, Richie McCormack, hello.
Evening, gents.
So there we are. Desi Farrell chatting to Dubs TV, and it was not the most thrilling interview I'd ever seen in my life. And then I would say willfully, Mick, he buried the lead.
Stuck it in there, 6 or 7 questions in, exactly as his predecessor did when he announced that Stephen Cluxton was coming back into the squad.
Yeah.
However, how long ago was that? I was Dermot Connolly, sorry, not Stephen Cluxton. It was Stephen Cluxton we were waiting for similar news on a couple of years after, but it was Dermot Connolly's return was snuck into about eight answers into a generic post-match press conference that time. So it's funny how they do it in Dublin.
Alan Brogan tweeting, if Jack and Mannion are going back, I'm going back as well. So maybe there's a third, I don't know. But yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, who's the third man?
Isn't it funny how this has become now the Dublin modus operandi of dealing with the media? I like Desi Farrell in doing this, it couldn't have been more willfully out of sync with kind of the emotional scale of the news, you know. So it's a very deliberate thing, and that is how Jim Gavin did it. And so you'd love to know if Desi Farrell was of a mind to be candid, and he's not at the moment. But you'd love to know, is this way of doing things, is this like a reaction to, you remember the hype of the early 90s and getting the suits and Arnott's, or is this like thinking of the time maybe under Pillar where they're marching down towards the hill, and you know, it's this fear of the fact that you're the capital city and the media are based there, that the whole thing will just run away with itself, and it's a reaction against that? Or is it, well, Jim Gavin did it this way, really successful.
Yeah.
That's like the Paul McGinley Ryder Cup template type thing, so I'll just do it that way as well, because it's so making a point of trying to ham things down. It's kind of like when Cluxton walks in after the Ireland final because he wants it to be low key. That's so unusual, that makes it memorable, and you know, what is the Barbra Streisand effect? It's kind of a situation. So I just don't know what's the thinking there of like saying to myself, well, I'll put this in 4 minutes into a Dubs TV interview. It's just very striking.
It's worth pointing out this is in everything they do, because if you're picking specifically on this, there is a question that jumped to mind as you were saying this. Is like he's at club games. He's talking about how things are going. I'm just wondering where he's supposed to say it. He goes, guys, have I got some news for you or what? You know, it's like there is an element of like, I actually don't know what other way to do it.
I guess you would say to Dubs TV or whatever the vehicle is, let's do 2 minutes on the fact that the boys are coming back.
Yeah,
and keep it separate from the club game. This sounds, by the way, can I be very clear? There's someone typing a text right now. Stop. Stop typing. Don't waste the 30 cents. I just want to say, this is not a criticism of Desi Farrell. This is just
curiosity.
It's very interesting now. There is the Dublin way of doing things with the media.
So I think what you said about marching to the hill and 2006 and all of that, right? I think that does go into it a lot, right? So what you had in the mid-2000s was a team that filled out Croke Park, had a lot of characters and a lot of energy and a lot of good footballers as well, and did okay, but didn't get over that last line. And the legacy of it was the dreaded H word. And what happened after that, first with Pat Gilroy and then perfected, or whatever the word is, by taken to the nth degree by Jim Gavin, just brought unparalleled, unprecedented success. So I do understand kind of saying the thing that failed us in the past, where it was actually probably a myriad of things.
Of course. In
your head, it's like, what failed me in my playing days, if I'm Desi Farrell, was there was too much going on around us. But like, what you miss out from that is the fact that like there's so many brilliant, like, you know, obviously from Dublin, growing up here in my life, there's something about the Dublin character, and you can't tell me that we haven't had any in the last 10 years, because we know we have, because once they retire, people like Paddy Andrews go on the football pod and you see, God, like, he's a great character. He's what we think of when we think of the Dublin character, the wit, etc. But we don't see it because they're just seemingly afraid of it all. But again, when you win however many All-Irelands they've won, It's hard to argue, but I don't know. It's
I
just
know
interesting.
it's hard to break with the tradition that was so successful. I sort of get it, but I'd love to talk to Desi Farrell and ask him, like, off the record, what story? Because you know that's a weird way to do it. Instinctively.
Manager of the Year Awards, early
thinking?
December, you know. You have to get your ticket in for that one.
And actually, Colin Boyle will be a very interesting guest. One, because he's played against them and he's, great sense of modern football. But he experienced James Horan, who I would say is very much in the Jim Gavin camp and the Desi Farrell camp of, like, how low key can we make something? And I'm going to go there. Whereas you saw Kevin McStay in the new management team, so it's not like it's a Mayo template. Kevin McStay, the new Mayo team, I would say had their media night to, I guess, unveil the new era and talk in pretty relaxed, relatively open fashion without going OTT and
That's it,
tears down their face and we're going to win it. It's none of that. It's just, I kind of engage with you a little bit. I'll give you a little bit. Whereas definitely Horan gave nothing and now Dublin give nothing. So I don't know. It's
you look at like Limerick. I find that Limerick are giving you nothing really.
Yeah.
But they're being engaging with it. And we spoke to Grode Hegarty I think twice during the season this year. You know what I mean? And they were both really interesting interviews. Once on AM, once with yourself.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid of it.
No.
You know, John Kiley will talk about things. We know all about their backrooms. We know about Caroline Currid. We know about Paul Kinnerk.
Yeah.
They're not hiding it all.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're being careful and they're not letting it run away with them.
Yeah. Look, it's not the core point, obviously. It was just I thought I had. So we'll talk certainly the football aspect with Colin Boyle.
Which is really exciting, by the way.
It's amazing.
Like, I mean, Paul Mannion, we've been talking about a good bit over the last few months because obviously Kilmacud are in the news and are there. But like, we spoke a few months ago about unique footballers and Jack McCaffrey's name came up and it's just like as much as he has other things to be doing with his life that are a little bit more important than football, it's so sad that we weren't seeing prime Jack McCaffrey over the last couple of years because he is a one-off. And I actually think as well he's one of those players that even the anti-Dublin 31 counties he just has that something about it. You want to see Jack McCaffrey
still only
play
28
football. Exactly.
I know. I did on the strands of Dollymount a while back because we're vaguely in the same neck of the woods, bump into him with someone else and I was with someone who knew him better and chatting away, and as we walk our way and he walks his way, I just think, what a waste.
What a waste.
Sure, he's out there saving lives,
but
what a waste.
Changing the world.
Yeah, so there we go. The Newsround is, as ever, brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. As I scramble to open your Newsround, Richie, and you're not starting with the return of the two boys. You've got Republic of Ireland team news for us. Not great news.
No, not brilliant. Andrew Omabamidele has been ruled out of the Republic of Ireland squad for the Nations League games with Scotland and Armenia. The Norwich defender picked up a groin injury in last week's 1-1 draw with West Brom. He'll now end the year without a competitive game to his name. Omabamidele's place in the squad goes to Liam Scales, who's been near ever-present for Aberdeen following his loan move from Celtic. Robbie Brady, though, was in front of the media today ahead of what could be his first cap in 18 months. He says his spells out injured have been difficult, but despite his absence from the international setup, Stephen Kenny has remained in contact.
Yeah, it's been difficult sort of over the last 6 months or so, 12 months. He's left it to me. I told him what I felt like I needed, and he told me what he thought I needed, and it sort of speaks for itself. I wasn't playing enough football to put myself in contention, and I knew that myself. But no, he's been great for me since he first came in keeping in contact and his thoughts on me and where he thinks I can get to. And like I said, I wasn't able to get myself in a position to give him what he needed, and I feel as if now I'm back fit and healthy, and I feel as if I'm in a good enough place to make an impact. So like I said, I'll be ready to go if needed.
It's good to have him back. 18 months, a long time away from international football, and his body thankfully not deserting him at the moment and going very well at Preston. So Brady back in the squad. The under-21s, of course, Richie, have serious business to take care of.
Yeah, and under-21 manager Jim Crawford forced into a reshuffle of his squad ahead of their European Championship playoff with Israel. Mark McGuinness, Luca Connell, Liam Kerrigan and David Harrington have all been ruled out through injury. They're replaced by NAC Breda's Anselmo Garcia McNulty, Burnley's Dara Costello and St. Pat's duo Adam O'Reilly and David Odumosu.
Cluxton about as low-key as the Queen, says the texter. So, yeah, but... See, my sense, I don't know, Richie, you were listening to us chatting there. My sense, say, of Cluxton, for instance, as like this real kind of cultural touchstone in that Dublin camp and kept manners and everybody, is that he would look at any engagement with the media as distraction and ancillary and egotistical, and we don't need it. It doesn't serve us, therefore zero tolerance policy. And I kind of respect that as well. I do get it.
I think there is there has to be a top-down approach here. Who has led it? I'd love to know, but it's been quite clear, and it has been copied in different ways by different counties and different teams within counties across the country in the past decade. But there seems to have been a top-down approach of going, right, don't give anything away, keep everything as close to your chest as you possibly can. There's literally no point, from our point of view, in talking, so why should we? If there's any great need to, we will. If there's any great story to address, we'll address it. But like the Diarmuid Connolly situation is kind of case in point. I mean, every single door you tried to open when that story was ongoing was shut, and there was no way that you were going to get to the bottom of it. And Cluxton's retirement has proved to be, or non-retirement if it is to be the case, has proved to be pretty similar. They'll just go about their business, and I don't know. It then becomes this question and this kind of media self-analysis of wondering, well, if they don't speak to us, then who are they going to speak to, and how are we ever going to get their side of the story? And maybe they just don't want to give it.
No, I don't think they do, actually. I think that's exactly right. Yeah, as in terms of copying others, the famous Anthony Daly clip that we use on various montages, if the All-Ireland champions went step dancing twice a week, we'd all be going step dancing twice a week.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's copycat culture.
Which is a pity, I think, for the general... And I say coverage, you're always thinking of it from a media side of things, but actually what coverage leads to, which is the getting to know of the people involved. Like, it is a pity that it has gone that way while being understandable. Yeah. Because obviously people will take Dublin's lead on these things.
Yeah. And I would say some of Farrell's thinking is, well, let's not make it like, oh my God, thank God they're back. And let's not also rev up the hype, and let's not, make anyone who's been in camp for the last couple of years training very hard feel underappreciated suddenly. Like, oh, thank God, you can be forgotten because I've got the two boys back. Yeah. I'm sure he's thinking of all those things.
Think it comes. I still do maintain that I'm not 100% sure what else he could have done in this way. You had a bit of an in the middle solution. I think that is probably fine.
Yeah.
But I do like, as much as I think if I was manager of Dublin, I wouldn't know what I was doing, first of all, but second of all, I would like just be a little bit more open and talkative with the media, because I don't think you'd lose anything from it. But this exact news, I don't know if I would have done it any differently, I have to say.
You wouldn't have buried it 4 minutes into a Dubs TV chat
and hope nobody noticed. Like, he knows that people are going to pick up on two of the best footballers in the country coming back to your
not saying go on the late show or anything, but just I don't know. It's just that's now the Dublin way of doing things, I guess, is the point. Again, it's not a big criticism. It's just it's just so striking.
God, you're so afraid of annoying them tonight, show, aren't you?
Yeah, why am I so? Well, actually, to be fair, it's not so much that crowd who'll text in and get annoyed about anything.
That crowd, there you go.
Yeah. It's more, I don't even, if Desi Farrell was listening, I wouldn't want him thinking, oh, this is a weird criticism of him. It's just, this is the template now, and it's very striking that it's the template, and I would just love to know what the logic is or what the thinking is behind the scenes. Is it just...
Without wanting to sound all old man, I think there is an element of new media about it all, because the old phrase that they used to have about, newspapers and stories and all that is that it's tomorrow's fish and chip paper. And to a degree, that was very, very true. But there's now such a footprint of literally everything that's said and everything that's documented and every interview that's given, that stuff gets dragged back up and can be used as ammunition, positively or negatively, back at the person or back at people who might be implicated by those comments, where they wouldn't have been back in those days of the Dublin team of the 80s that kind of was so well known yet so unsuccessful, for instance, and different ones around the country as well, whereby there's a lot of things that can be thrown back in players' faces in the modern era that possibly didn't exist beforehand.
Yeah. Lads, what Desi Farrell did with Dubs TV isn't unusual. It's actually 100% bullseye in terms of contemporary PR practice. Put it out first on channels you own. Share it through social media. Let mainstream media pick it up if they're interested. Textbook 21st century public relations. And I'm offering that as a 50-something PR and comms PRO, says Porrick. I've no issue with it going out in Dublin Dubs TV. That's not the point. Sorry if I'm not clear. It's that it's like 5 minutes into this interview and it's just right at the end, and it's said with like zero sense of excitement or reveal. It's not even like, here's the Dubs TV interview that just starts with Desi, great news, Paul Mannion, Jack McCarthy are back.
That is actually the way to do it. It's like, tell the interviewer to be the hype merchant and I'll play it down.
Yeah. Just like, let's do 2 minutes on, I don't know, I'm not looking for state secrets, but also you wouldn't mind did you approach them? Did they approach you? It's interesting they're both come back at the same time. How did all that happen?
He's in Parnell after the quarterfinals, isn't he? So like, it is understandable. It's like Dublin manager goes to watch players, one of them obviously was involved, but You know, again,
Oh, sorry.
does it make more PR sense to talk about what you've seen today and what's coming through?
Then do a
the next
separate one.
generation?
Do a separate video today
That's
or
fair,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Or geez, doing it on Dubs TV makes total sense, and you control everything then. But maybe just maybe the first question should be about the fact that Jack McCarthy and Paul Mannion are back. That's all I'm saying. I sound like I'm really giving out here. I don't even like listening to myself at the moment. I'm done. I'm parking it. It's over. It's over. We haven't even talked about Nathan Collins yet. Here we are, 18 minutes past 7. We haven't talked about Nathan Collins. Richie, where are we going next?
All 6 Irish crews in action at the World Rowing Championships have progressed to their respective next stages. The women's double sculls of Zoe Hyde and Sunita Pushpur, the women's 4 of Emily Hegarty, Fiona Murta, Emer Lamb and Afrik Kyo, and the lightweight double sculls of Margaret Kremen and Aoife Casey all won their respective heats today. Katie O'Brien progressed to the A finals of the women's single sculls, finishing second in her heat. The women's pair of Natalie Long and Tara Hanlon are into their AB semi-finals following a second place finish of their own, and another second place finish today came for the men's 4 of John Carney, Ross Corrigan, Nathan Timoney and Jack Dorney.
We have got T20.
Yeah, and Ireland have collected a first win in Group A of Women's T20 World Cup qualifying. Having bowled out the United States for just 91 this afternoon, Ireland reached their target with 9 wickets in hand and 41 deliveries to spare. Ireland know a win over Scotland on Wednesday will see them secure a place in the finals in South Africa.
Now, this next story, the links are certainly on one side anyway between Racine and Stuart Lancaster continue.
Yeah, he continues to be linked with the head coach's role at the top 14 club. Reports in France say considerable progress has been made with talks with the former England head coach. However, current Racing coach Laurent Travers has indicated he'd be willing to extend his stay with Racing for another 2 years. Jackie Lorenzetti, their owner, is set to depart at the end of this season. Meanwhile, Leinster have given no timeline on the returns of injured quartet James Lowe, Hugo Keane and James Tracy and Tommy O'Brien, but Jordan Larmour and Joe McCarthy have entered the final stages of their recoveries from respective knee and ankle issues.
Now, Richie, much like Desi Farrell, you've buried the news deep in the newsround here.
Yesterday's news, Joe. You've got to get to it later.
That's true.
Dublin's odds for the 2023 All-Ireland slashed by the news that Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion are to return to the panel. McCaffrey's been away from the squad since midway through Desi Farrell's first season in charge in 2020, while Mannion left after that campaign. But speaking after the weekend's Dublin Championship quarter-finals, Farrell did indeed tell Dubs TV eventually that both are back.
We've had a lot of new players come into the squad over the last 2 years, and that process continues, and very interested in the progress that some of our players have made. The likes of Shane Clayton, Ross McGarry today, Ben Millis, young Ben Millis from Ballantyre, played very well today as well. And good news is we'll have Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion rejoin the squad next year as well. So that'll be a great help to us in terms of the development and continuous evolution of the team, the squad. And of course we're hoping before the championship ends that we'll have a sprinkling of 1 or 2 other new players to bring in, and we look forward to the season ahead then.
There we go.
There you go. Is there something to be said for, just moving to the actual football side of things now, that as good as these players are, and I think they would come back in any, for any team at any point, but I think Dublin do have to be concerned about the fact that they're so needed, I suppose. Is that these 2 guys went away for 2 years, and not that they haven't been replaced, but the stars of the next generation don't seem to be breaking through in the way that, even though Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion will walk onto any team in the country, they'll still be 28, 29, next season, and only have that couple of years left. It's almost what comes next. Dublin, absolutely. I think these 2 players add enough to make them, they're already contenders for the All-Ireland every year. This puts them up there with Kerry, you would say. But then what's next? No, they're not. There's nobody coming in saying, you're not taking my jersey, pal.
No, I guess maybe you could say it buys the next generation 2, 3, 4 years to come through.
Yeah, that's a good
so.
point.
It's a nice short-term solution. So that's McCaffrey and Mannion. We'll talk to Colin Boyle about that in just a few moments' time. We have Monday Night Rugby on the way after 8 o'clock. Keith Wood, Rory O'Connor back with us. You've got some rugby for us, Rich.
Yeah, international trio Bundy Aki, Mac Hansen and Finlay Beelum return to the Connacht squad for their trip to South Africa. The province face games with the DHL Stormers and Vodacom Bulls following Saturday's opening night defeat to Ulster. Quaylen Blade, Sam Illo, Cian Prendergast and Dylan Tierney-Martin also travel with Connacht, and they'll join up with the emerging Ireland panel after the Stormers game.
What about Nathan Collins, Mick? When you saw him flying through the air in real time and saw the incident?
I first saw the screenshot, I was out at I only saw the second half of the game. And I first saw the screenshot and went, geez, he got up very high, didn't he? Like, as in, like, just in a casual jump. I mean, some good hang time.
I feel like I first saw the David Sneyd stamp, mocked up stamp of Nathan Collins going through the air.
Look, what do I really think? You know, you can have all these Jack Grealish jokes you like, but Nathan Collins has started off very, very well for Wolves, but with a couple of moments that you would say he needs to be smarter than that. You know, he's missing 3 games for a team that are struggling now, that need him.
Yeah.
And, like, he is one of their key players, and he's going to miss 3 games for something that was, like, I don't know if heat at a moment or just like a temporary loss of, you know, his control. And I just, like, he can't be doing that again next season, for example. You know what I mean? And that is a huge learning curve for him. Will it ultimately harm his career or his Wolves legacy or anything like that? I don't think so. And people will have a laugh about the fact that it was Jack Grealish on the end of it for the last couple of days. But ultimately, I think he'll be pissed off with himself.
When I first saw it, I thought, oh, geez, has he put his studs through Grealish? And then you watch it again and you realise he hasn't done that at all.
No, there was no malice in it. It was just, it was an absolute red card. Like,
yeah, it was. I mean, I'd love to make the argument, but no, it was. But it definitely wasn't the, oh my God, he's Polak's Grealish. Look at Grealish rolling around there.
And he should be coming into, like, we're going into international camp. He's made this big move. It's gone very well for him.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's, for as few Premier League players as there are, it's a team of players in form coming together, a squad of players in form coming together this week, and there should have been a kind of a buzz about it. Nathan Collins should have been almost top of that, you know, cloud of enthusiasm, and he's just got to be annoyed with himself.
Yeah, 3 matches is a lot, isn't it? It's a fun thought to think of him and Diego Costa in training against each other.
I don't think he'd stand back from Costa, I have to say.
I think those two might actually say, away we go here. Gentleman's agreement, all is fair.
I've seen it a couple of times in Collins this year. Like, he does not hang back, and he'll get in on behalf of one of the teammates as well when it comes to it, you know. He's got to get a yellow card in every game, doesn't it?
It's funny, only when everybody was crowded around Grealish and there was a bit of handbags that you realise Nathan Collins is about the biggest of everyone there. I know City aren't a huge team, Haaland aside, but he's you're kind of, I was like, okay, by Premier League standards, big specimen. Struck me as well. But anyway, he's in the Ireland squad for the upcoming 2 games. Richie, you have news from Shelbourne. Obviously, they were happy yesterday.
Fresh off helping Shelbourne reach the FAI Cup semi-finals, Sean Boyd has agreed to stay with the Talca Park club for next season. The Strikers' double against Bohemians in yesterday's quarter-final brought his tally for the season to 11. Shelbourne will be away to Waterford in the second of the Cup semi-finals, kicking off at 4:45 at the RSC on Sunday, October 16th, and there will be a 2 p.m. start to the meeting of Derry City and Treaty United.
You've left out how Shelbourne got into the semi-final there, Richie.
I mentioned he scored twice yesterday over against Mick, and it
was 3-0.
It was one of the most appalling performances from Bowes that I've seen.
It really must have been Rory O'Connor in here, like, saying disgusted.
I met him at it. I met him. I was talking to him at halftime about it, and by halftime it was already poor. It didn't get any better. There was like a brief flurry of half chances. I think Jordan Flores hit the post at one point in the second half, but like I saw them through the years when the money disappeared and they were teetering on the brink of going out of business, and there were scratch squads put together to try and get through a season and not be relegated, and that was the aim. And yesterday was worse than all of that. For a team who had literally this was their season, and that was the chant that was coming from a bunch of fans behind the goal. This was their only chance to get into Europe, to put a bit of a decent end towards a pretty dismal, underwhelming campaign, and never showed up. Never showed up. And the comments by Derek Pender, who again has taken some blame for himself afterwards, as well he should, because tactically they weren't at the races at all yesterday, and some of the players, Flores being one of them, were absolutely bang on. It was unacceptable, the level of performance they put in yesterday.
Okay. David Mead, Dublin have to be strong favourites for next year, surely, as in unbackable favourites, reckons David Mead with this news. One last story, Rich. We'll be talking about it with Graham Hunter later.
Yeah, La Liga are to investigate racist chants aimed at Vinicius Jr. prior to Sunday's Madrid derby. Atletico fans were heard to have chanted, "Vinicius is a monkey," outside their Wanda Metropolitano stadium. Real went on to win the game by 2-1. La Liga will deliver a formal report to the Spanish Football Federation's disciplinary committee and indeed the state's Anti-Violence Commission.
This story has been like a week-long saga in Vinicius Junior's life. Started with a game against Mallorca, really came to the fore in a Spanish TV show where a phrase or an idiom was used, which caused massive offence. There was his tweet and statement on Friday, and then the reaction of the Atletico fans on the Sunday last night was a disgrace, really. So Graham will tease it all out for us. But,
he's come out of it really well, I think, and like in a situation he should never have to be in. I shouldn't know more about Vinicius Junior this week than I did last week, but I have to say I really, really admire the way he's dealt with it. I haven't seen anything since last night, but in the week building up to it, you know, you'd be full of admiration for him, just wishing that people. That's not exactly how we have to come to admire people, is to see how they react to racist abuse being sent at them. But someday we won't be talking about that on the show.
Mick, thanks for the time being.
Cheers.
Richie, chat to you tomorrow. Cheers.
Nice, lads.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Well, we've had some big prizes on the cash machine. This is our biggest ever amount. So another rollover. Someone missed Barry's call today again. So if you've entered since Thursday at 5 o'clock, you're